Shocking truth. The 144,000 in Revelation revealed at midnight. Insane secrets never told. The clock ticked ominously toward midnight, echoing like the heartbeat of a world poised on the brink of revelation. In that pregnant silence, secrets long buried stirred in the shadows, waiting for the witching hour. When the clock struck 12, a chill danced through the air, wrapping around vibrant stories and lost truths. The 144,000. A number whispered about in hushed corners, speculated on by the curious, and feared by many. Strange lights flickered beyond the dense woods surrounding the town. Those who dared venture near reported eerie glows and whispered voices carried on the wind. Some said it felt as if the earth itself pulsed with energy, a throbbing, magnetic force that sent shivers down spines. Laura, a local historian, with her sharp eyes and endless curiosity, couldn't resist the pull. She had been piecing together fragments, old texts, forgotten scrolls, trying to decipher what the 144,000 meant. But what she found was more alarming than she ever anticipated. Now shadows loomed over her every step. Every rustle of leaves, every distant howl, felt like a warning. There were nights when she'd wake, heart pounding, the taste of dread sharp on her tongue. Her research led to strange patterns, coincidences that twisted the fabric of her understanding. The very air crackled with tension, and her stomach tightened as if anticipating some unavoidable confrontation. What was once a mere puzzle transformed into something darker. As midnight approached, she ventured into the woods, her flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. The trees whispered above her. It felt as though they were watching. Suddenly, a cacophony of sounds erupted, a sharp snap of a branch. Then silence. Panic shot through her body. Was she truly alone? It was as if the night held its breath, and only she dared to move. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. She pressed on, her heart racing as she approached a clearing. The sight that met her eyes took her breath away. An ancient stone altar, draped in glowing symbols, seemed to pulse with energy. It was beautiful and terrifying, the air thickening with some unnameable power. And there, gathered in a circle around the altar, were figures cloaked in shadow, their murmurs rising like smoke. What rituals were they conducting? Were they the key to the 144,000? What did it all mean? Just as she took a step closer, a piercing scream shattered the atmosphere, slicing through the night like glass. Laura froze, every muscle tensed, fear flooding her veins. She needed answers, but what if those answers led to unimaginable danger? Could she really uncover the truth hidden in this midnight hour? Laura's heart thundered in her chest. The scream echoed in her ears, a sound full of terror and desperation. It cut through the primal fear that gripped her, spurring her into action. She edged closer to the altar, driven by an overwhelming need to understand what was happening. Was someone in danger? The shadows shifted like living smoke, swirling around each other as the chanting grew more fervent. She tried to make out their words, but it was like listening to a strange melody, twisted and dissonant. Her flashlight flickered, the beam dancing in an unpredictable rhythm, threatening to fade. She gripped it tighter, willing it to keep illuminating the scene that shook her very core. Suddenly, behind her, a figure emerged from the thick darkness. Laura turned, her breath hitching, but it was only her friend Mark. Fear etched across his face. "Laura, you shouldn't be here," he gasped, eyes wide with panic. "Mark, I'm trying to see what's happening." She lowered her voice, conscious of the gathering intensity. People are disappearing." He cut in, urgency fueling his words. "I overheard someone in town. They say those cloaked figures are connected to what happened to the last missing person. We have to leave now. Her mind raced, torn between the inexplicable draw to the altar and the fear for her life. What if the 144,000 was more than a number? What if it was a ritual, a calling, a summoning? We can't just leave. There's something important here, something that needs to be uncovered. Marcus' eyes darted to the circles as their voices rose higher. They'll see us. We can't let them know we're here. The words sent icy fingers down her spine. She glanced back at the figures, each adorned with a different symbol. A serpent, an eagle, a lamb. The sight was striking and fearful, and she felt the weight of their gazes across the clearing. Damn it, Laura. We need to go. Mark reached for her arm, but she shook him off. Her mind locked on the altar. The chanting crescendoed, and the ground trembled beneath her feet. Symbols lit up brighter, each pulse synchronizing with her racing heart. It was a warning. With every syllable they uttered, the energy thickened, electrifying the atmosphere. Shadows flickered and shifted, spiraling like a tornado, pulling her deeper into their thrall. Just then, a figure stepped away from the gathering, breaking their chant. A deep voice boomed, resonating through the woods. The chosen will rise. The scales will be balanced. Laura's breath caught. The words stirred a dread awareness in her, a realization that she was connected to this moment. Were they seeking her? Laura, we have to, Mark pleaded. But the ground beneath them shook violently, and suddenly the altar erupted in blinding light. She stumbled backward, shielding her eyes. As the light dimmed, she peered into the chaos. Something was forming. Shapes, faces. The air crackled, heavy with anticipation. A vision flooded her mind, images of dark skies and countless souls. Was she meant to witness this? In that surreal moment, everything went still. The chanting stopped. Silence fell like a shroud. Laura felt a sudden stillness, as though the whole world had paused to watch what would unfold next. Mark's grip tightened on her arm, panic spreading across his features as he stared into the heart of the light. Then, a voice, clear and deep, resonated through the clearing, no longer chanting, but speaking directly to her. You have come in search of truth. But truth bears a weight beyond your comprehension. Laura's heart raced, fear blending with determination. The moment of reckoning hung in the air. What were the consequences of this knowledge? The circle shifted, and the figures began to step toward her, their intentions murky and foreboding. Will you stand to learn your part in this? The voice asked, an unyielding challenge that echoed in her very bones. Laura's mind screamed to run, yet she felt an irresistible pull toward the truth. As if sensing her hesitation, the light grew brighter, and the air thickened, charged with the weight of impending choices. What was she willing to sacrifice for knowledge? Would she take a step into the unknown? Just then, a deafening roar echoed through the night, drowning her thoughts. The ground shook violently once more. The cloaked figures all turned, their expressions hidden, yet a rush of urgency accelerated their movements. Laura glanced at Mark, but before she could react, the shimmering light exploded, scattering shards of radiance, and then everything went black. What awaited her in that darkness? Would she emerge on the other side unscathed, or would she become one of the 144,000? The darkness enveloped Laura completely, a heavy blanket weighing down her thoughts. She could hardly breathe, panic clawing at her chest. Silence choked the air, deep and suffocating. She reached out instinctively, her fingers brushing against something firm but cold. Panic morphed into dread. Mark, she called out, her voice trembling. Was he with her? Had they both been swallowed by whatever force had erupted from the altar? Mark. A heartbeat later, she felt a familiar hand clasp hers, squeezing tightly. I'm here, he whispered, voice steadied by proximity. We're in something dark. I don't know what's happening. At that moment, the void around them shifted. A whisper skated through the air like an unveiled threat. Do not fear the dark. It is but a curtain. Laura's heart dropped. Who was speaking? The words curled around her mind like smoke. Then, suddenly, The darkness lifted, revealing a disorienting scene. It was not the forest they had known. Instead, they stood in a vast expanse of swirling shadows, punctuated by shards of eerie glow. Welcome, seekers of truth. The voice, now omnipresent, resonated all around them. You have crossed the threshold into the realm of revelations. Laura's eyes darted around, scanning the void for the source of the voice. She could see figures forming in the distance, faces half-shrouded in mist, watching them with a display of intense curiosity. Each figure bore the symbols she had seen before: the serpent, the eagle, the lamb. "Why are you here?" one of the figures asked, stepping forward, their silhouette sharp against the neon glow. "What do you seek?" "Answers," Laura replied, trembling but resolved. "We came to find the truth behind the disappearances." "Truth," the figure mused, ethereal eyes locking onto hers. "And what will you pay for that truth?" "What do you mean?" Mark interjected, his voice edged with ire. "You're not making any sense. People are in danger." The figure's lips twitched, almost a smile. "Danger is a necessary perspective, dear Mark. But truth encompasses a larger scope. It requires balance. Would you be willing to sacrifice your understanding of reality for it?" Laura felt the gravity of the question weigh on her shoulders. "We have to know. We've come too far," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Very well." The atmosphere crackled, electric tension surging between them. "Your willingness is noted. But remember, knowledge is not a gift. It is a burden." Suddenly, visions surged through Laura's mind, one after another like rapid flashes of light. She stumbled, grappling with haunting images, shadows entwined with figures, mournful faces of those long lost. The visions twisted into a singular truth, a pattern she never anticipated. The 144,000 weren't just a statistic. They were a cycle, a necessary reckoning. Each soul sacrificed brought forth another truth, a thread binding them to a fate beyond their understanding. Before she could fully process it, the figures began to fade, their presence lingering like whispers of smoke. "Your part in this will be crucial," the voice echoed as if they were fading into the fabric of the night. "Prepare yourselves for what's to come." With that, Laura felt herself begin to drift away, the ground beneath her dissipating into nothingness. She fought to grasp onto reality, but it slipped like sand through her fingers. Suddenly, blinding light erupted once more, and they were thrown back into the clearing, disoriented and gasping for breath. Mark clutched her, wide-eyed with raw fear. "What was that? What just happened?" Laura's mind raced. We learned something, but it feels wrong. We asked for knowledge and got chaos." As the reality of their surroundings took shape, the cloaked figures began to reassemble, standing ominously before the altar. Their haunting chants resumed, now resonating with an otherworldly weight, invoking a chilled dread. "What does it mean?" Mark whispered, eyes locked on the shadowed assembly. "We have to go, now." But Laura felt the pull again, a magnetic force drawing her back toward the altar, toward the heart of the enigma. "Mark, wait. We need to." Before she could finish, the chanting crescendoed again, and the ground shook violently. The symbols pulsed with energy as an unseen power surged through the air, drawing the figures closer. "Stop!" Laura shouted, gripping Mark's arm as the figures merged into one indistinguishable mass, their voices morphing into a singular foreboding message. "You cannot escape your fate." "Will you be chosen, Laura?" What did that even mean? She could hardly process the implications when the world around them exploded into chaos once more. Time was running out, and choices loomed on the horizon. Would she turn back, or step forward into the unknown? "Laura!" Mark's voice pierced her thoughts, a splash of cold water in a boiling pot. The altar pulsed with an urgent light, seemingly calling her name. Would she take that step, or would she be swept away in the tide of destiny? The shadows beckoned, promising secrets buried deep, but at what cost? The ground trembled beneath Laura and Mark as the figures began to swirl around them, their chants intensifying, wrapping around Laura like a vice. Each syllable was a blade, cutting into her resolve, igniting an instinctual dread that screamed for her to run. Yet there was nowhere to go. Why are they saying my name? Laura's voice trembled, a mix of fear and uncertainty flooding her senses. Her pulse raced, an echo in her ears, drowning out the chants that threatened to consume her. Mark tightened his grip. You have to fight it. We need answers, not whatever this is. Suddenly, a figure broke from the mass, drawing closer. An aura of authority surrounded them, interfering with the chaotic energy pulsing in the air. Laura. The voice rang clear, casting aside the cacophony. You are at a crossroads. Choices must be made. Will you accept your role in this unfolding tapestry? What role? Her voice was fierce, desperation dripping from her words. What tapestry? You will become a vessel. The cycle relies on you. Will you bear the burden? Laura's heart sank. The weight of the world pressed down harder than ever. You can't mean what about the disappearances? The lives lost? We have to stop this madness. Madness? The figure echoed back, an eerie smile creeping along its lips. The universe is a web of chaos, but from chaos emerges truth. All must be revealed, and you, a bony finger pointed directly at her, are crucial to that revelation. Mark stepped forward, protective yet shaking. We didn't come here to become pawns in someone's game. We came for justice. The figure laughed, a sound like shattering glass. Justice is but a whisper here. Knowledge is power, but with it comes sacrifice. What are you willing to give? A rush of images flooded Laura's mind. Friends lost, strangers weeping, shadows rising to consume everything. The weight of each loss collided with her, suffocating in its entirety. No, I want to be part of this. Yet you are already entangled. The figure warned, its tone as cold as ice. The choice is already set in motion. Do you wish to know the truth behind the 144,000? Or shall the cycle continue without your guidance? What do you mean? Laura's voice quivered, feeling herself teeter on the edge of a precipice. She could almost sense the swirling darkness curling at the edges of her vision, ready to pounce. Each life taken feeds into this cycle. Each story, each truth invokes another. You can break the cycle or entwine it further. Your choice defines the path ahead. Suddenly, the altar erupted in a torrent of blinding light, illuminating the figures in stark detail, their faces twisted in a mix of anticipation and fear. The chants crescendoed, the air thickened with an electric charge, and Laura felt the overwhelming pull of the altar trying to draw her close. Laura! Mark's voice shattered the trance, urgency shivering through him. We have to leave. Now. But as Mark tugged at her, the figure stepped closer, a grin spreading across its features, illuminating something sharp and dangerous hidden within. You cannot flee the truth, dear Laura. Your decision lingers before you. All around them, shadows began to shift and rise, weaving a net of darkness that threatened to ensnare them if they didn't act quickly. It was a vivid tableau of the eternal struggle between light and dark, and they were now active participants in this horrific play. Make the choice, Laura, the figure urged, its voice now a desperate whisper, rising over the clamor of the encroaching shadows. The altar pulsed with radiant energy, a siren call for her to step forward. What was the truth? What would it take to uncover it? As the shadows twisted and the air thickened with an oppressive weight, Laura faced her deepest fear. Would she embrace the burden, or resist it? With the fate of countless lives hanging in the balance, she felt herself swaying towards an uncertain future, unsure if the truth she sought would burn her. Laura, please, Mark cried, pulling her back, his eyes filled with panic and a plea for safety that echoed louder than ever. And then, the moment froze. Time teetered on the brink, and her answer hung in the air, teeming with fate, and the next heartbeat could change everything. What do I choose? She murmured, her breath catching in her throat, as darkness pressed forward, eager to swallow them whole. But the choice had to be made, or they might not survive to make it at all. The shadows closed in, thick and malevolent, their whispers promising despair. Laura blinked, and in that brief moment, the world around her shifted. Mark's face twisted with worry, the glow from the altar casting flickers of light, that danced frantically across their anxious expressions. "Choose," the figure commanded, its voice slicing through the chaos. "Your moment is fleeting." Something inside Laura twisted painfully, the urgency palpable. She could feel the weight of lives on her shoulders, an entire cycle connected by threads of grief and sorrow, tales not yet finished. They waited for her, a symphony of echoes demanding resolution. Her heart hammered as the crowds of figures swayed like a turbulent sea, their chants becoming a tidal wave of sound, pulling her deeper into the abyss. She choked back the words, but the choice pressed against her throat with cruel pressure. There was no time to ponder the consequences of becoming a vessel for such a heavy truth. "Fight, Laura." Mark's voice broke through the fog. "Don't let them control you." His plea struck her fiercely, igniting a spark in her core. She reached for him, but the figure stood just between them, a barrier constructed of dark energy and intent. The figure's smile widened, its eyes glinting in the harsh light of the altar. "Foolish boy," it hissed, "you do not understand what you are fighting against. Knowledge is a dark gift, a blessing and a curse. What say you, Laura?" The altar pulsed violently, the ground beneath their feet shuddering as if responding to her turmoil. She could feel it, all the weight of choices made before her birth, the blood that had been spilled, the cries of the lost reverberating within her. I need to know the truth," she shouted, defiance swelling inside her. If she was to face this, she would do it on her own terms. The figure tilted its head, intrigued, the chant around growing fainter as a hush fell over the onlookers. "So it shall be. Prepare to awaken." In that instant, the blinding light erupted like a supernova, filling her vision, pulling her in. Laura felt herself being drawn within, strands of energy wrapping around her as she was thrust into her memories. The moments ticked by a flash of laughter, a slice of sorrow, each scene more vivid than the last. Suddenly, darkness engulfed her. No more light, only shadows moaning and swirling. They whispered secrets, spilling from the lips of those who had been lost. Laura writhed, the weight of their despair crashing upon her like waves. Why is this happening?" she cried. But no answer came, only the suffocating certainty that history was repeating itself. And she stood at the center, tangled in a narrative far larger than herself. Mark's voice, desperate and faint, reached her. "Laura, fight it. Remember who you are. You are not a vessel," the figure commented, the twisted glee evident in its voice. "You are the keeper of secrets, bound to this ground like the rest." But Laura shook her head, tears streaming down her face, fueled by a fierce resolve. No, she would not let this darkness dictate her life, nor would it claim Mark. With a surge of sheer will, she concentrated on the memories, each a thread she could pull, weaving a tapestry distinct from the one forced upon her. The shadows recoiled, hissing as she began to starve them of their power. But the figure advanced, its form shifting, becoming grotesque. "Truth is a double-edged sword, Laura. With knowledge comes loss. Then I will unleash it," she screamed back, her voice resonating with newfound strength. But at that moment, everything shattered. The ground rumbled, the altar cracked, splitting reality wide open. "Mark," she called, panic flooding her. He reached for her, but the force of energy pulled them apart, her body tumbling into the abyss as darkness closed in like a vice. The last images burned in her mind, familiar faces twisted in pain, eyes calling for release, innocence bound by fate. And then silence fell, a blanket of nothingness as her consciousness fluttered, teetering on the edge of comprehension. A single thought echoed in the void: had she made the right choice? What awaited her beyond the shadow? What price would she ultimately pay to grasp the truth? And the darkness whispered back, tantalizing and foreboding, "The cycle is not yet complete." Laura felt a jolt. A sudden burst of light pierced through the suffocating darkness, igniting her senses. It wasn't just light. It was warmth, a flicker of hope, pulsing like a heartbeat within her. She took a breath, struggling against the remnants of despair swirling around her, still feeling the weight of countless souls pressing down on her. "Where am I?" she thought, panicking. The void felt slippery beneath her, like the floor of a roaring river. Memories collided in her mind, each one marked by emotion, pain, grief, but also the glimmer of laughter, joy dancing just out of reach. A figure emerged from the shimmering haze, haloed in light, and it whispered words wrapped in gentleness. "Laura, you must listen." Panic clawed at her throat. "Please, who are you?" "An ally," it replied, the voice melodious yet grave. "I come from the remnants of truth that have not been swallowed by darkness." "Then help me," Laura pleaded, her voice trembling. "I need to find Mark. I have to escape this." The figure leaned closer, its translucent form flickering like the last embers of a fire. "To break free, you must embrace your truth. The darkness is strong, but your will is stronger." "No," Laura shouted defiantly. "I will not be your puppet again. I chose this fight." The figure dimmed slightly, taken aback. "You possess a fierce spirit, but the shadow seeks to bind you. Even now, it's searching for your energy, twisting it. You must act quickly, before it binds not only your fate but the fates of all you love." An icy chill crept over her. Memories of Mark flooded back, the sound of their laughter like a lifeline. She could not let him down. But how? Her voice quaked, lost in a maelstrom of uncertainty. The figure gestured, and the shadows loomed closer, a writhing mass of despair threatening to consume her. "By finding your truth, you can harness the power of those you've lost. Channel their love, their strength. But be warned, once you awaken this power, the shadow will retaliate with force." Heart pounding, Laura felt her anger rising. She thought of her family, her friends, their lives intertwined with hers, shadows of love guiding her. She focused on the laughter, the warmth, and she pulled on those memories until they glimmered in her mind like stars breaking through a dark night. "I will not be their vessel," she declared, her voice steady. "I will rise." The light surged from her core, a dazzling beam that pushed back the shadows clawing for her. The ghastly figure, its features now clearer, twisted with fury, began to dissolve under the might of her rising energy. "No!" it screeched, its voice a screeched whip against the encroaching light. "You will regret this." With every ounce of focus, Laura thrust her hand forward, casting a wave of light that broke through the shadows. She felt the warmth enticing the echoes of lost souls, wrapping them around her like a protective cloak. Their cries transformed into a harmony that resonated with her strength, illuminating her purpose. Then she sensed it, a ball of darkness charging towards her, gathering strength in the chaos. It roared angrily, determined to reclaim its hold. "Fight it! Fight it!" she shouted, the very fabric of her being vibrating with the energy she had unleashed. But just as she reached a crescendo of power, the mass of darkness surged forth, colliding with her newly found light, a thunderous crack shaking her resolve. The collision sent shockwaves reverberating through her body, flinging her back, spinning through the void. "Mark!" she screamed, desperately reaching toward the swirling chaos where shadows threatened to swallow not just her, but everything she loved. A whisper of his name echoed back, fractured and distant. Could she save him? Could she save them all? "Don't let the cycle ensnare you, Laura." The dim voice reverberated through her thoughts, but in this liminal space, she couldn't tell if it was fading or drawing near. With her heart racing and determination surging in her veins, Laura readied herself to face the storm. But as the darkness converged, a single question pierced through the fog of uncertainty. Was she truly strong enough to wield the truth, or would she forever be lost within their own cycle of despair? Laura felt herself suspended in a tempest of light and darkness, twirling like a marionette caught in a tangled string. The power she had unleashed flickered, a battle between radiant bursts and looming shadows that sought to snuff her out. She gritted her teeth, raising her hands to shield her face from the onslaught, her mind racing. "Mark!" she shouted again, the echo of his name slamming into the walls of the void like a physical blow. She thought of their plans, their dreams. Would it all turn to ash if she failed? As the darkness coiled around her, tendrils of despair trying to bind her movements, she pictured Mark's smile, his unwavering belief in her. Just the thought sent warmth flooding back into her, rekindling the light within. "I won't let you take him," she cried, focusing every fiber of her being on the glowing memories that danced at the edge of her consciousness. With a surge of will, she called forth the essence of those she loved, the victories they shared, the joy echoed in their laughter. The shadows shrieked, a cacophony of anger, when her light swelled, a radiant counterattack. "Yield! You cannot win," they screeched, the air thick with their rage. "Watch me," Laura gritted through clenched jaws. With renewed vigor, she thrust both arms forward, light streaming from her palms like molten sunshine. It collided with the mass of shadows, pushing back against the grip of despair that twisted around her. The oppressive weight lightened slightly, and she felt a flicker of hope rise within her. But just then, the darkness responded with a ferocity. It coalesced into a massive figure, grotesque and vile, its form dripping with malice. "Foolish girl, your truth is as weak as this light. You will be consumed." With a deafening roar, the shadow lunged towards her, a black wave of fury meant to engulf her whole. Time felt suspended, and for a heartbeat, fear curled in the pit of her stomach. "Laura, remember," the gentle voice from before pierced through the fear. "Your truth is your strength. You can channel their love." And she realized it. Love was not fragile. It was fierce and explosive. Tears filled her eyes as memories of laughter, hope, and warmth surged within her. She thought of Mark, imagined him charging at her side, fierce and unwavering. She could feel him stronger than the shadows. "Mark," she murmured, and in that instant, a blinding light erupted from her core. It exploded outward, a tidal wave of dazzling brightness crashing against the darkness. The monstrous figure froze, howling as the light melted away the layers of its form. Shadows faltered, shrank back in fear, helpless against the brilliance of her resolve. "Get away from me," she yelled, determination resonating in every syllable. Fueled by love and unyielding will, she could feel her connection with Mark intensifying, binding their fates together against the grasping darkness. Just as victory seemed within reach, the darkness roared back in desperation. Its rage became palpable, as if the void itself were shaking. It swept towards her, an avalanche, its claws ripping through the air with enough force to tear through her essence. "No!" Laura screamed, and she pushed through the fear, standing firm, extending her arms wide, imploring the love she had harnessed to push back. But the shadow wouldn't give up easily. It retaliated, unleashing a torrent of electric anger. Sparks flew, and she felt the tingling rush of vulnerability flood over her as she fought to hold the light steady. "Laura," the soothing voice urged again, "trust the bonds you share. Embrace them. Only through love can you prevail." With every ounce of faith she could muster, she called upon Mark's unwavering spirit. They were more than just memories. They were lifelines. "Together," she shouted, feeling the power swell, a swirling energy of determination and unity starting to manifest. But then terror gripped her heart. An oppressive thought slithered in. What if the link was weak? What if, in the end, her love wasn't enough to break through the darkness? As the void pulsed angrily around her, sharp question pierced her resolve. Could she truly confront the shadows without losing herself? All she knew was that the battle was hardly over, and as darkness surged forward one last time, she braced herself for the clash that would determine not just her fate, but the fate of everyone she held dear. Laura's heart thundered in her chest, the weight of the shadows pressing against her, narrowing her vision. Each pulse of dark energy felt like a monstrous heartbeat, echoing in the void like a death knell. She couldn't back down. "Not now, Mark," she bellowed again, a strength igniting in her voice. She could almost picture him, his confident stance, his eyes bright with encouragement. "You're with me. We are one." With that thought fueling her resolve, she let the memories flow, a cascade of brightness surging from her, flaring with a fierce intensity. The fear began to melt away, replaced with the undeniable power of love. She envisioned every moment they had spent together, from the tranquil nights under thousands of stars to shared laughter over breakfast. It was all a part of her now, as if their souls intertwined, pushing against the encroaching malice. The giant shadow shrieked, splitting the air with its fury. "Do you think those sentiments can save you?" It spat, the hatred curling around its voice. "You are but a flicker in my eternity." "No," she shouted defiantly, the light within her pulsating in rhythm with her defiance. "I am more than a flicker. I am a fire." As she raised her hands, the glow grew deeper, a fierce explosion of warmth that forced the darkness to recoil and retreat. The shadows around her splintered like glass, but new forms coalesced, darting back to take their place. They didn't let up. An array of vengeful whispers clawed at her ears, each scream soaked with desperation and dread. "You are alone. He is lost. You'll never see him again." A gut-wrenching fear shot through her, but she thrust it aside. "I am not alone," she roared, her voice echoing with strength. "I am never alone." Laura narrowed her focus, drawing from the warmth of Marcus' love and the support of those lost yet not forgotten, their spirits surrounding her like a protective barrier. The memories swirled around her, forming a whirlwind of light and strength, charging the air with electric potential. Together, she shouted, harnessing that raw energy and thrusting it outward. The light blasted against the shadows, illuminating the twisted features of the monstrous figure. For a moment, she thought she saw confusion rippling through its darkness, before it twisted into a grimace of hate and rage. "Go back. You cannot win," it howled, and with a violent lunge, it surged forward, claws extended. Laura stood her ground, heart racing. The world narrowed to the shaping of that one climactic moment. Confidence and terror twisted together, the light and dark battling not just around her but within her too. The space shuddered. The sound of hellish screeching mingled with her pounding heart. Mark. She needed him. She focused, letting his strength envelop her. The darkness surged, a massive wave ready to crash over her. The voices became a cacophony, screeching and moaning. As the world spun faster, she felt unsteady, her footing shifting beneath the pressure of despair. But then, a warm light shot through her being, igniting her courage once more. "I refuse to let you win." With every ounce of her love and strength, she pushed forward, blasting light from her core, wrapping it solidly around the encroaching darkness. It was like a beacon cutting through the night, illuminating everything in stark contrast. As the light met the shadow, it stuttered, hesitated. For a moment, it seemed as if victory was within her grasp. But then, the darkness began to swell, and a guttural laugh erupted from the monster, signaling retreat before it charged again with renewed rage. "Get ready for your judgment," it screeched, diving deeper still, hungry for her light. Realization dawned, a terrifying truth unveiled. Laura's breath caught in her throat. Her spirit trembled as she recognized the threat at hand, not just to herself but to everyone she loved. This was a battle for an eternity, not just a moment. With a frantic heart, she wondered, what lay behind the truth the shadows threatened to reveal? Would she emerge to find Mark untouched? Or would this be the final time she flickered against the darkness? The very air around her pulsed with energy, as the final conflagration prepared to erupt. It was time to confront not just the shadows but the truths waiting to be discovered in the heart of this void. The dawn of understanding loomed just beyond reach. The shadows roared, their sound filling every crevice of the space, a menacing symphony of suffering and contempt. Laura's heart pounded, thundering with an intensity that echoed the dark energy swirling around her. The monstrous figure lunged again, its claws reaching for her, threatening to snuff out the light she wielded so fiercely. "Not today," she screamed, her voice ringing out like a battle cry, a beacon of defiance against the suffocating darkness. She dug deep, anchoring herself with the memories of Mark, feeling their bond strengthen her resolve. With the flick of her wrist, she summoned a wave of light that washed over her, illuminating the grotesque features of the shadow before her. But its rage was relentless. "You think your love is enough to fend me off? I thrive on your despair," it bellowed, the shadows thickening around Laura like a suffocating fog. Breath catching in her throat, She pushed against the panic rising inside her. "You don't understand," she yelled back, her spirit surging as she held tightly to the warmth inside her. "Love is stronger than anything you can orchestrate." The air crackled with tension. Black tendrils lashed out, wrapping themselves around her arms, pulling her back into the depths. She could almost feel the oppressive weight of fear beginning to seep in, but she fought it. Desperate to keep her focus, she closed her eyes for a heartbeat, envisioning Marcus' smile. "Mark," she called out, envisioning him standing beside her, bolstering her strength as if in response to her plea. A pulse of warm light ignited her heart, radiating through her limbs like fire. The chains of darkness weakened, starting to crumble beneath the power of her conviction. "Together," she shouted, her voice breaking through the dark veil. The air shimmered as the light expanded outward, illuminating the monstrous figure and revealing the truth hidden within its shadowy form. For a brief second, Laura saw a glimmer of something within the dark, an entity that seemed almost human, twisted by pain and sorrow. "You cannot fight me," it howled, but there was a tremor in its voice now, a crack in the facade. "You will know despair beyond measure." "Show me then," she screamed, determination surging through her as she pushed the light even harder against the encroaching shadows. In that moment, the dark figure staggered, confusion wrinkling its features. "No one has ever dared to look me in the eye," it roared, barreling forward, but Laura stood her ground. "I won't let fear dictate my fate," she declared with fierce passion, every syllable a weapon. As she thrust her hands forward, a brilliant burst of light erupted from her core, streaming like a comet into the abyss. Waves of radiant energy collided with darkness, a flash of brilliance that painted everything in sharp contrast. But then, as the light expanded, as if bridging two worlds, the shadows recoiled, revealing not just grotesque shapes but fractured moments, memories that shattered through the darkness like shards of glass. Each revelation was a glimpse, a flicker of souls tangled in despair, families torn apart, whispers of lost love, hearts left behind. "No," the shadows writhed, smearing the brilliance of Laura's light. "You shouldn't see them. They belong to me." An icy chill swept through the air, thick with regret. Laura gasped as memories of her own past flashed before her eyes, the moments of vulnerability, her fears of loss. "I know them," she shouted defiantly, tears stinging at her eyes. "They are not yours. They are part of me." With that acknowledgement, she felt the light within her flare to life, burning with a resounding clarity. "You will not own my story," she vowed. In that intense moment, Laura knew she was on the brink of something monumental. Would she sever the ties that kept the shadows alive, or would they pull her into the depths of despair? As her spirit rose in defiance, a reality shook the ground beneath her. With one final burst of energy, Laura prepared to strike back at the darkness, ready to face the ultimate truth hidden within. Would her love be enough to unleash the secrets that lay veiled in the night? Her heart quickened, resonating with the rhythm of battle as she confronted the shadows, knowing that the choice made in this moment would echo through eternity. What truth was waiting in the dark, and would it finally set her and those she loved free? Laura's heart thundered, her breath coming in quick, sharp bursts. The shadow loomed before her, alive with menace, and she felt the weight of something ancient hang in the air. Every pulse of darkness wrapped around her like chains, promising despair, but she held her ground. "You won't defeat me. You can't take away what I love." The monstrous figure seemed taken aback. "Foolish girl," it hissed, its voice dripping with sarcasm. "Love is but a fleeting illusion. It is loss that binds." With a fierce roar, Laura reached within, summoning the warmth of every cherished memory, the laughter, the heartbeats, the faces she fought to protect. "It's precisely that love that gives me strength," she shouted, and something shifted in her. Her light grew, a radiant force illuminating the shadows, pushing back the tendrils of despair that clawed at her. The darkness flickered as she surged forward, feeding off the light and emotions swirling within her. "I know the truth now," she yelled. "Your cycle ends here." The shadow retaliated, twisting and writhing as if her words struck at its very essence. You dare challenge the foundation of despair? It roared, and for every ounce of light she unleashed, the dark craved more, trying to swallow her will. But Laura wouldn't yield. She steeled herself and faced it directly, knowing her bond with Mark had formed an unbreakable tether between love and strength. Together we rise, she proclaimed. Mark, she called into the chaos, desperation lacing her tone. And from the shadows, she felt his presence surge beside her. The bond they shared solidified her resolve, igniting a fierce power. Laura felt the very fabric of her existence centering, her heart sinking with the crescendo of light. She envisioned a world beyond this moment free from the grasp of the dark, a world where people lived, loved, and shared. In that heartbeat, she thrust everything she had into her hands and hurled it at the darkness. The radiant energy burst forth, crashing against the evil force with blinding intensity. No! The shadow howled, its form rippling as it began to unravel, the vitriol laced with a hint of fear. Laura pushed harder, letting her fears go. I refuse to let you dictate my fate. With one final surge, the light expanded like a star going supernova. The dark figure shrieked, its form melting into tendrils of smoke, desperately striving to hang on. But it was too late. The shadows twisted and shattered, scattering like ash in the wind. As the remnants of the dark faded, the atmosphere began to clear, and Laura felt weight lifted off her shoulders. She gasped for breath, warmth crawling back into her bones, the pressure of despair evaporating. Laura! Mark's voice broke through the echoes of the void, and she turned to see him striding toward her, worry etched across his face. Are you okay? Barely, she panted, relief flooding her senses. But I think we did it. As the last shadows dissolved, the clearing around them transformed, light spilling over everything, illuminating the stones. The altar stood strong, now merely a structure basking in the morning glow, no longer a harbinger of fate, but a monument to resilience. Together, they whispered, entwined, their hands clasping as they stepped out of the remnants of darkness. A new cycle was beginning, one born of choice, love, and ultimate sacrifice. But something deep inside Laura stirred a flicker of the past just the same, the weight of those lost in the shadows. She looked back at the altar, resolute. This isn't over. Mark nodded, understanding blooming in his eyes. Together, they would ensure that the cycle didn't continue, that no more would be lost to the shadows. Justice and truth would guide their path as they ventured into the dawning day. No longer just historians seeking stories but warriors spreading hope as they broke free from the forest. Sunlight warmed their skin and hope surged within. They had faced their fears, battled against the dark, and emerged stronger than ever. Laura felt a new weight, not of despair, but of responsibility. They would share their story, their truth, so others wouldn't be ensnared in the shadows. Let us make sure this never happens again, she vowed. We'll bring light to those still hidden in the dark. The horizon stretched before them, vibrant and alive. The road ahead was uncertain, but together they would navigate it, facing whatever came next, knowing that they had each other and that love always triumphed over the darkness. And as they walked forward into the bright dawn, Laura knew this was the beginning of something powerful, a new chapter that would echo through time, a promise that the cycle would finally end. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support matters, and only true fans understand the importance of backing our journey.